For the longest time, I thought cardio meant suffering. That started in middle school. Every 6 months, we had to run time-lapse. I was never good at it. Probably because those were the only 2 days a year I tried running. I dreaded those days. 30 seconds in, I felt like I was about to die. So, as an adult, I associated cardio with prolonged suffering. And because of that, I avoided it. Then, this year, I actually looked at how cardio is defined in the health guidelines. I mentioned them in my last episode. I've been trying to understand what the minimum effective dose of exercise actually is. Not what Instagram says, but what the evidence says. And I realized something that's genuinely surprised me. It doesn't have to be that intense to count, but it does have to meet a specific definition. So, how do you actually know if your cardio and strength workouts count? It turns out the recommendation is simple. About 150 minutes of moderate cardio per week, or 75 minutes if it's vigorous. But here is what surprised me. Moderate does not mean miserable. Fast walking can count. That completely changed my perspective. The easiest way to know your cardio intensity? The talk test. If you can chat comfortably, it's light. If you can talk but prefer short sentences, moderate. If talking feels genuinely difficult, vigorous. No devices needed. I'm slightly out of touch with my body sometimes, so I wanted numbers. Moderate intensity is roughly 65 to 75% of your maximum heart rate, which is 220 minus your age. For me, that's around 120 to 135 beats per minute. At first, I kept checking my watch constantly because I couldn't believe walking could get me there. But it did, especially if you start going uphill. I tested it. Fast walk, light jog, almost identical heart rate. My heart didn't care whether I was walking or jogging. It only cared about intensity. That was incredibly freeing, especially because jogging flares up my knees. So what about specific activities? Brisk walking counts moderate most of the time. Spin classes, usually vigorous. Boxing, almost always vigorous. Padel, often moderate, sometimes vigorous. The activity is flexible, the intensity is not. So, the guideline is not saying go jog. It's saying challenge your cardiovascular system. If your breathing changes, it probably counts. I'm actually curious, what kind of cardio do you usually do? Walking, running, something else? Let me know in the comments. Strength training is actually more vague in the guidelines. The recommendation is simple. Train your major muscles group at least twice per week. But what does that mean in real life? Do you need heavy barbells? Does yoga count? What about Pilates? Here's the simplest rule. If your muscles aren't close to tired, it probably doesn't count. Not slightly warm, actually tired. If you could easily double the reps, that was not enough stimulus. A practical way to think about it. If you can do 8 to 15 reps before it gets hard, you're probably in the right zone. You don't need maximum weights, but the last few reps should feel challenging. Your muscles need a reason to adapt. So, what types of training count? Gym weight training, if the last reps feel hard, clearly counts. Home dumbbells or resistance bands. They count if they genuinely challenge you. If you can just keep going without effort, it probably wasn't strength work. Yoga, long demanding holds that make your muscles shake, that might count. Gentle, mostly stretching-based sessions, probably not enough stimulus. Pilates, it can absolutely count if the tension is high and you're struggling near the end. The class label does not matter, the fatigue does. The part most people miss. Even if something counts today, your body adapts. If it never gets harder, your body has no reason to stay strong. That's what's called progressive overload. It doesn't mean extreme workouts. It just means that over time the exercise needs to become slightly more challenging, otherwise progress stalls. That's just physiology. So when we hear 150 minutes of cardio and 2 strength sessions per week, what that really means is challenge your heart and lungs, challenge your muscles, not extreme, but not effortless either. And once I understood that, many more opportunities opened up. Walking counts, dancing counts, Pilates and yoga might count depending on intensity. The activity is flexible, I just need to make sure I'm challenged. But here is the harder part. Now that I know what counts, why is it still so difficult to stick with it? Understanding intensity is one thing. Actually building the habit is something else entirely. So in the next episode, I want to look at what behavioral science says about consistency. Not motivation, not willpower, but how to design exercise routine so you don't quit after 3 weeks. Because knowing the rules is step 1. Making them sustainable is the real challenge. If you want to explore that with me, consider subscribing, because the next episode is all about what behavioral science says about sticking with exercise long term. I'll see you there.